Welcome to the Fountains Studio Celebration. And thanks to all of you who have not only been joining us on YouTube and Facebook, but who've been mashing that thumbs up button and leaving comments as well. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, here's your chance to start the new year off right. Just click the big red subscribe button and be sure to ring the bell icon to get notifications of our latest posts. Subscribing to our channel may not seem like a big deal, but in the mysterious world of internet algorithms and organic exposure online, every little bit counts. Plus, if you like what the studio has to offer, be sure to share the link with friends. Just press that share icon on YouTube or Facebook. So, thanks in advance for subscribing, sharing, and helping spread the word about the Fountains Studio. From wherever and whenever you're joining us, we're glad you're here.
Let's join together as we get in the spirit. Life is short, and we do not have much time to gladden the hearts of those who make the journey with us.
May we be swift to love and make haste to be kind.
Let the people make the most of what's been given them,
And may our neighbors do the same.
doing all we can to serve each other.
And may the Spirit inspire our vision for the future.
Boundless compassion.
Let's affirm the Fountain's mission together.
As followers of Jesus, we
put love first.
As we quiet ourselves, may we be freed from the chatter that distracts us and be mindful of the gift of this moment. Breathing in and breathing out, here and now. May we sense the mystery of our connectedness with one another and with all of creation. May we be open to the ways the Spirit nudges us, stirs us, and inspires us into new ways of thinking and being, with hearts and minds set on doing justice, loving kindness, and walking humbly with the mystery of the divine. May our deepest selves be attentive to the way the Spirit is moving within and among us.
Bind us together, Lord, bind us together with cords that cannot be broken. Bind us together, Lord, bind us together, Lord, bind us together in love.
Holy One, untamed by the names I give you, in the silence, name me, that I may know who I am. Hear the truth you have put into me. Trust the love you have for me, which you call me to live out with my sisters and my brothers in your human family.
This is our prayer.
We offer this time of quiet, bringing our whole selves in the name of the one who taught his first followers to pray the prayer we now sing together.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory, now and forever.
Hi, I'm Cindy Kingland, and I welcome you to our beautiful surroundings for our overnight visitors. In the first place, I got involved with this because it's a real hands-on chance to see a really good program, which is Family Promise, in action. So this is where you stay if you're working overnight. We have cots, we have a couch. Your instructions are all right here, and it's all laid out for you. There's even a little box underneath here with over-the-counter medications if a kid has a stomach ache or something like that. The directions are all very clear, and you have information on the kids and the parents that will be here this particular week. So it's all laid out for you. We have clean sheets. When you're done in the morning, really all you have to do is strip your cots, put them in there, put the linens in there, and then we do take the trash out of the bathrooms and out of the big room. I'd like to tell you what I get out of it. I feel almost guilty sometimes because I think maybe I get out of it as much as they do. Some days when they get off the bus after a long, hard day, they're exhausted. They don't really want to talk much, and they just need to eat dinner and clean up and go to bed. On other times, they want to chat. The kids are fun. So you never know quite, every time is different. I've done this, I think, 5 times now, and every group is different. One group, the women discovered the labyrinth. They didn't know what it was, and I had to give them a little tutorial on it, and they both walked the labyrinth and felt like it made a big difference to them. And the kids are darling. Some of them want to talk to you and hang out, and some of them don't. And then you see them go and all take their showers and clean up, and they're in bed by 8 o'clock. And the next morning, we're all up at 5, getting ready to be picked up at 5:30 by a very nice gentleman and his dog, who take them back to Family Promise, where they go back to work or looking for apartments or looking for childcare. And it just makes you feel like you're really part of something. You know, it's one great thing to donate money to different causes, and we all support that. But this is a part of yourself that you have the opportunity to share. And it really means the world to me. So sign up, come on down, it's fun.
Every day, the Fountain strives to put love first, both in person and online.
And if you're one of our many regular online viewers, we're grateful for your participation as a digital member. Every week, you hear about all the many ways you can give electronically to support this online outreach, like using the QR code on the screen, going to give.weputlovefirst.org, or downloading the Vanco mobile app. So when you're on our secure giving site, be sure to look for the line that says Studio Celebration Donation.
A contribution here lets us know you're out there, that the studio is important to you, and that you want to be part of supporting this growing digital outreach.
So wherever and whenever you're watching, we're glad you're joining us.
Thanks in advance for supporting the studio financially.
choosing to live with hearts full of gratitude. Give us the gift of choosing to live with hearts full of gratitude.
I know, I don't go here a lot, but today's passage is from the Gospel according to John. And just a reminder before you read John, to always put on your special John reading glasses. There are lots of things to keep in mind that influence how you might interpret this version of Jesus' life. Remember that it was written 70 to 80 years after Jesus' death. It was aimed at a predominantly Greek audience, and it's the only gospel in the canon that was written after the Jesus people were kicked out of the synagogue. So it is, without question, the most blatantly anti-Semitic of the canonical gospels. Insofar as any of the gospels are historical, John is the least historically accurate, leaning towards propaganda. There are no parables, there's an extended timeline, 3 years instead of 1 year, and there's a complete overhaul of Jesus' teaching and message. Less about justice and compassion and more about the person of Jesus. Suffice it to say that John's rewrite and the imposition of his particular theological agenda means that, compared to the other Gospels, John consists of 90% unique material. With that said, today's reading comes from the middle of what's called Jesus' farewell discourse, a lengthy section running from chapters 14 through 17, John's version of Jesus' last instructions to the disciples, where Jesus articulates the kind of sacrificial love he's advocating in terms even the lunkhead disciples might comprehend.
Our words of wisdom are from John chapter 15, verses 12 through 17, the Message version.
This is my command. Love one another the way I loved you. This is the very best way to love. Put your life on the line for your friends. You are my friends when you do the things I command you.
I'm no longer calling you servants because servants don't understand what their master is thinking and planning. No, I've named you friends because I've let you in on everything I've heard from the Father.
You didn't choose me, remember? I chose you and put you in the world to bear fruit, fruit that won't spoil. As fruit bearers, whatever you ask the Father in relation to me, he gives you.
But remember the root command, love one another.
Hear what the Spirit is saying to the church.
Thanks be to God.
I don't know about you, but with it still being the first few weeks of the new year and the consequences of November's election rising up to meet us in the inauguration next week, I find myself coming back to some basic existential questions, not the least of which is, what's it really all about? So, if I were to ask you what the meaning of life was, would you have an answer? As I did last January, let me remind you of the answers from some of the greats. Cherokee tribal leader Wilma Mankiller says to live in balance and harmony with every other living thing in creation. South African Bishop Desmond Tutu says to reflect God's beauty and love in relationships. Industrialist and physician Armand Hammer quotes Einstein, "A person first starts to live when they can live outside of themselves. It's our responsibility to make the world a better place than the one we found. Life is a gift, and if we agree to accept it, we must contribute in return. Civil rights activist Rosa Parks said, "To do what we can to make the world a better place for all people to enjoy freedom." Sex therapist Dr. Ruth said, "To be vigilant in our awareness of the terrible things we can prevent, like hunger and want." Rabbi Harold Kushner wondered, "When it's over, what will my life have been about?" And author Studs Terkel believes the meaning of life is to make a dent. So, what is it all about? It's the classic religious philosophical question. But most of us are so busy, we hardly ever have time to examine it, let alone figure it out. Some of you might remember the 1991 comedy City Slickers. Three friends, burned out and facing various life crises, decided that a dude ranch cattle drive was the solution for their ills. Along the way, the grizzled old trail boss, Curly, instructs Billy Crystal in exactly what life is all about.
Do you know what the secret of life is?
No, what?
This.
Your finger?
One thing. Just one thing.
That's great, but what's the one thing?
That's what you gotta figure out.
Even though he doesn't elaborate, maybe because he doesn't elaborate, Jack Palance won an Academy Award for this performance. But as vague as Curly's suggestion might be, our John passage has a really solid suggestion as a place to start. You may recognize it in the old Revised Standard Version phrasing, "Greater love has no one than to give up their life for a friend." And while it may seem like Jesus is just patting himself on the back in advance here, I think the real sentiment is captured better in our Eugene Peterson paraphrase. "Love one another the way I loved you. This is the very best way to love. Put your life on the line for your friends." Bill Easum, a popular Methodist guru from about 25 years ago, summed it up this way: "There's just one reason for this life: to give it away. Hopefully to a purpose greater than yourself." And common sense backs that answer up. One sociological study asked 50 people over the age of 95, if you could live your life over again, what would you do differently? Lots of answers, but 3 themes emerged. Number 1, I would reflect more. 2, I would risk more. And 3, I would do more things that would live on after I'm dead. Reflect, risk, leave a legacy. If you do that, if you put your energies toward a purpose greater than yourself, that's starting to sound a lot like the vision Jesus preached from the very beginning: to participate in making the kingdom of God real in the here and now. But life is crazy and hectic. I already have too many expectations put on my limited time and energy. Well, as my mentor Harold Beck used to say, we're so busy with the urgent, we end up not having time for the important. The daily grind makes it seem like life is slipping away without having any deeper meaning than just survival. But here's where the second half of today's passage comes in, and it's one of the reasons I love to hate this passage. John 15:16 is a "don't think you're going to get out of this that easily" kind of caveat. Jesus says to his followers, "You didn't choose me, remember, I chose you. And the only reason you're in the world is to bear fruit, fruit that won't spoil. Oh, great. You mean I don't have a choice? No, not according to John's Jesus. Well, thanks a lot. I was doing just fine living for myself, my wants, my comfort, my prejudices, and then Jesus has to come along and ruin it, making me unhappy unless I'm making a difference in the world. Well, thank you, Jesus, for ruining my life. Maybe we should put that on a mug or a t-shirt. But this is exactly the kind of priority some people spend their whole life pursuing and never achieving, living for themselves. Even though, according to PBS's This Emotional Life, the secret of happiness is about giving your life away. Science has been able to prove, measuring various tangible changes in behaviors of our brain, that a large part of the conditions for happiness the world over, it's the human condition, is to be in relationship with one another, to be in community, to have friends, friends to whom you give yourself over to. Jesus scholar Dom Crossan reminds us that our English word sacrifice comes from two Latin words, sacrum facere, which literally means to make holy. So when we give ourselves over to the betterment of the community, when we sacrifice our time, our talent, and our gifts to something greater than ourselves, we are lifting life out of the mundane and making something more, something sacred. So giving your life for a friend, as our passage suggests, doesn't literally mean dying. But then again, it might. Crossan points to the heroism of a firefighter who dies rescuing someone from a fire. In Latin, she has sacrum facered her life. In giving her whole self, she has made of her life something holy, something sacred, something more than ordinary. Look, when the knights gathered at the round table, they didn't come together to just sit around and socialize. They came in order to ask King Arthur, "On what great quest are you going to send me?" Well, friends, when John has Jesus say, "Greater love has no one than to give up their life for a friend," I don't know how to say it more clearly. That's the one thing. It's the quest that we're all tasked with. We have been chosen to do it. And we won't be satisfied, won't be happy, won't find ourselves, and won't find meaning until we quit fighting it and admit it. The one thing that will bring satisfaction, meaning, and happiness is giving our life away to something greater than ourselves. But it won't be easy. Remember, contrary to popular belief, Jesus' efforts were not centered on fluffy thoughts about forgiven sins and how to get to heaven. In his historical context, Jesus was one small part of what was widespread social unrest at the time. A few rich families controlled most of the wealth and were in cahoots with corrupt politicians. The working class couldn't catch a break, and eggs were, like 8 shekels a dozen. In the face of oppression and manipulation by both religious and political leaders, people were desperate to simply live. And into their midst waltzes this firebrand Jesus, not spouting pious platitudes about salvation in the great beyond, but telling stories about subversive behavior in the here and now, breaking all the rules of religious etiquette and generally flying in the face of centuries of the theological status quo that God was punishing the sick and poor and rewarding the wealthy and privileged. In words and actions, Jesus not only demonstrated that the time had come for a new way of living, he chose his friends to follow through on the task. And he knew it wouldn't be easy. He knew his opponents had killed the prophets before him and would most likely kill him. He knew what James Baldwin wrote of our own times, that ignorance allied with power is the most ferocious enemy justice can have. And so, as there seems to be a whole lot of ignorance out there these days, there are a whole lot of situations that Jesus might point to as opportunities to respond in ways that make our lives meaningful. So, as we consider our definition of the meaning of life, let's end as we began, adding to the wisdom of Wilma Mankiller, Dr. Ruth, and Harold Kushner, the wise counsel of Jimmy Carter, whom the country honors this week. What are important things that you often can't see? I would say justice, truth, humility, service, compassion, and love. These are the guiding lights of a life. But if that's too much to remember, let's not forget that most concise expression of the meaning and purpose of life. Make a dent. Tony Campolo used to tell a story about a student recognition Sunday at the church that he attended. The pastor gathered all the kids up at the front of the church, sat them down, and matter-of-factly said to them, "Children, you are going to die. You may think you're not going to die, but you're going to die. One of these days, they're going to take you out to the cemetery, drop you in a hole, throw some dirt in your face, and go back to the church and eat potato salad. Now, when you were born, you were the only one crying, and everyone else was happy. The important question is this: when you die, are you alone going to be happy, leaving everyone else crying?" So, what is the meaning of life? According to John's Jesus, we have been chosen for just one purpose: to give our lives away. May the Spirit of love and grace, who has breathed life into each of us, give us the courage to fulfill that call. Be well. Don't forget, if you liked what you heard today, buy me a coffee. The link's in the description.
God has chosen me to bring good news to the poor. God has chosen me to bring new sight to those searching for light. God has chosen me, and to tell the world that God's kingdom is near, to remove oppression and break down fear. Yes, God's time is near, God's time is near, God's time is near, God's time is near. God has chosen me to set alight a new fire. God has chosen me to bring new birth, a new kingdom on earth. God has chosen me, and to tell the world that God's kingdom is near, to remove oppression and break down fear. Yes, God's time is near, God's time is near, God's time is near, God's time is near. God is calling me ears of the voice with no power or choice. God is calling me to tell the world that God's kingdom is near, to remove oppression and break down fear. Yes, God's time is near, God's time is near, God's time is near, God's time is near.
Let's join together in these words of blessing as we go. We sense the Spirit's presence,
In hearing, seeing, taste, and touch.
moved by the fragrance of the divine,
Inspired by words of grace.
blessed by healing touch.
Called to embrace all of life as a gift of the Spirit.
May we go with anticipation,
And seize the richness of each day.